Today, we're about to peel back the curtain on a quarter that's been hiding in plain sight for decades. Folks who've stashed rolls of Washington quarters might have scoffed at a 1972 release years ago, but collectors know better. Beneath that familiar profile lies a world of subtle details and unexpected value. Whether it's a slight doubling on Washington's profile or a misaligned strike that left part of the design dangling, this quarter has stories to tell. In this segment, we'll trace its journey from metal blank to prized collectible, uncover the quirks that make it rare, and reveal just how much it's changing hands for today. The story begins in the early 1970s, when the U.S. Mint was balancing demand for pocket change against rising silver prices. By 1965, silver was phased out of quarters, replaced by the copper-nickel clad that remains standard today. In 1972, the Mint at Philadelphia and Denver struck millions of these new clad pieces bearing John Flanagan portrait of George Washington. What seems like a mundane production run hides the roots of rarity. Slight variations in die polishing, steel planchet composition, and handling between facilities created fertile ground for errors. Those tiny imperfections, unnoticed by daily users, now captivate seasoned collectors. Identifying a valuable 1972 quarter starts with the eye. The most sought-after variety is the doubled die obverse, where the inscription, "In God We Trust," and part of the date appear doubled under magnification. It doesn't jump out at first glance, but use a 10x loupe, and you'll catch a ghost image offset slightly to the right. Other telltale signs include die cracks near the rim, tiny raised lines that trace accidents in the die metal. Broad strikes, where the collar fails to restrain the planchet, produce thinner, wider coins with flat, spread-out rims. Off-center strikes can leave part of the design missing, revealing a blank metal arc on one side. Each of these quirks transforms a common circulation piece into an intriguing collectible. When it comes to price, most circulated 1972 quarters trade for face value, or a modest premium of 50 cents to a few dollars. But error examples demand far more attention. A typical doubled die obverse in mint state might fetch between $30 and $75, depending on clarity of the doubling and surface preservation. At the upper end, flawless specimens graded MS66 or MS67 by a leading grading service have sold for $500 or more at auction. One near-perfect off-center strike, about 8% off, realized over $1,200 in 2018. The auction record belongs to an ultra-high-grade 1972 D doubled die obverse, which achieved $3,600 in a heritage sale. Proof that condition and rarity combine powerfully. Beyond dollars and cents, this quarter carries fascinating lore. Early reports of the doubled die variety circulated in specialist newsletters in the late 1970s, when a few collectors noticed the anomaly and shared images. Word spread slowly before internet forums accelerated its fame. Stories emerged of change hunters flipping through rolls in laundromats, hoping to stumble upon a jackpot. One enthusiast traded dozens of pocket junk for a single error specimen in 1990, believing its rarity outweighed the cost. Today, you can still find examples in circulation if you're persistent, though the odds are long, perhaps one in every 10,000 struck. Condition matters more than age when valuing these pieces. A well-worn, muted quarter-graded good G4 may carry a slight collector's premium of $2 to $5 if it shows clear, readable doubling or a tiny off-center portion. In very fine, VF20, or extremely fine, EF40 grades, the doubled lettering stands out brighter, and collectors will pay $15 to $30 for a crisp example. Once you hit the mint state tiers, MS60 and up, the price curve steepens dramatically. An MS63 DDO might go for $75, while MS65 examples can command $200 or more. Off-center strikes of 5% will fetch a few $100s in MS63, but if misalignment exceeds 10%, values can soar past $1,000. The metal itself offers subtle clues. Examine the copper-nickel clad edge, a consistent band of copper sandwiched between two outer layers of cupronickel. If you spot a mismatched layer, perhaps a thin copper ring peeking out, that suggests a clipped planchet error, rather than minting variety, and that can be worth $20 to $50. Check for flawless fields and deep frost on proof-like specimens, often produced for collectors in small numbers. Proof versions from 1972, struck at San Francisco, exhibit mirror-like surfaces and sharp detail. Though not an error type, they can command $15 in standard grades and several hundred when flawless in deep cameo. Authenticity is critical. For high-grade or high-value examples, always seek certification from a respected grading service. A misattributed or counterfeit error could cost you hundreds. Real doubled die patterns follow specific guidelines. Look for doubling on the lower serif of the E in trust, doubling on the hair ribbon curl, and doubling in the mouth area. Off-center strikes should show consistent curvature on the unstruck blank, not ragged edges that might indicate post-mint clipping. Consulting detailed reference guides or obtaining expert verification ensures you're investing in genuine rarity. Over time, the supply of high-grade 1972 era quarters has dwindled as collectors secure standout specimens for their cabinets. When one appears on the auction block, it draws lively bidding from veteran numismatists and newer enthusiasts eager to own a piece of minting history. Even modestly toned examples, those with light golden or chocolate patina, often garner premiums for their attractive eye appeal. Since coin toning is unique, two coins of identical strike and grade can differ markedly in price if one develops a smooth, appealing hue versus an uneven or spotty tone. In 2025, the market remains active. Major auctions list a handful of 1972 D double die obverse and off-center types each quarter. Private sales through specialized dealers move additional pieces, sometimes away from public view. If you're hunting one, monitoring auction catalogs, joining collector forums, and attending local coin shows can boost your chances. And for those who own these coins, perhaps inherited in a jar of change, now is an ideal moment to have them appraised. Prices have been edging upward steadily as awareness grows, making today's discoveries potentially more valuable than ever. Shifting our focus to the 1966 quarter, you'll discover a coin that bridges a pivotal moment in U.S. monetary history. Struck at both Philadelphia and Denver mints, these pieces bear the hallmark of an economy wrestling with silver's rising cost. By 1965, the mint switched from 90% silver to a copper-nickel-clad composition, and the 1966 release represents the first full year without silver. That transition led to unforeseen quirks, planchet inconsistencies, hurried production schedules, and occasional die errors that now intrigue seasoned collectors more than half a century later. The Philadelphia minted 1966 quarter is instantly recognizable by the P absence. Mint marks didn't appear on Philadelphia coins until 1980, while the Denver issues carry a small D beneath the wreath. More than just mint marks, these quarters hide subtle deviations. The most coveted variety is the double die obverse. Look closely at United States of America on the rim. Under magnification, you might spot a faint second impression shadowing the primary lettering. Combined with faint doubling across quarter dollar, this variant commands attention. Die cracks are also common, appearing as spiderweb-like lines across Washington's hair, or the reverse wreath, each crack telling a story of stress in the minting die. Circulated 1966 quarters with no notable error will rarely fetch more than face value, or a modest 50-cent premium. However, error specimens ignite enthusiasm. A clear double die obverse graded about uncirculated $50 can command anywhere from $20 to $40, while mint state examples, MS60 to MS63, often fetch between $75 and $150. Attention peaks for MS64 specimens, which have traded hands for up to $300. Among the most dramatic auction results, a perfectly centered double die obverse graded MS66 achieved a surprising $1,000 at a major sale in 2020, underscoring how condition multiplies rarity's impact. Beyond doubling, off-center strikes on 1966 quarters are prized for their visual drama. When the planchet slips past the collar by as little as 3%, the image shifts, leaving a crescent of blank metal that seems to play peekaboo with George Washington's profile. Off-centers of 5 to 10% can command $200 to $400 in high grades, but when misalignment exceeds 15%, values can skyrocket into the four-figure range, particularly for specimens graded MS65 or higher. One such bold error, misaligned by roughly 20%, sold for $1,500 in 2019, capturing collectors' imaginations and pocketbooks alike. A curious variant emerges if you flip the coin. Some 1966 quarters exhibit what's known as a clipped planchet error. These occur when a blank disc is improperly cut, producing a straight or curved missing section along the rim. The value of clipped planchets hinges on the clip size and shape. Minor clips might bring $15 to $30 in average condition, while dramatic, sharply defined clips, resembling a crescent bite, can earn between $75 and $200. Collectors prize these because each clip is unique, turning mass-produced clads into one-of-a-kind curiosities. Stories surrounding the 1966 quarter often highlight the scramble at mints nationwide. Faced with silver shortages and skyrocketing demand, supervisors pushed for accelerated output, which sometimes meant recycling worn dies longer than usual. Die polishing left faint remnants of previous designs, and in rare cases, ghost images of earlier coins faintly imprint alongside the intended strike. While the classic 1966 quarter isn't a silver piece, Mint employees whispered about coins that looked silvery under specific light, an illusion caused by polished planchet surfaces. Those legends added mystique long before specialist publications dissected them. Condition-based variations play a dramatic role in valuation. A quarter in good G4 grade with light die crack evidence might fetch $5 to $10, but as you approach extremely fine F40, doubling becomes more readable and die details more pronounced, pushing values to $25 to $35. Once you hit mint state, the price curve steepens sharply. MS61 pieces start around $60, MS63 climbs to $125, and MS65 examples often exceed $300. Peculiarly, coins with attractive toning, subtle blues, purples, or gold hues swirling across fields, can command premiums of 20 to 30% over raw white examples. That patina turns functionally identical issues into boutique art pieces. Turn to auction archives, and you'll find a handful of noteworthy 1966 quarter sales. A top-graded MS67 doubled die obverse garnered $2,200 in 2017, reflecting not only the error's scarcity, but also collectors' hunger for top-tier preservation. Meanwhile, a dramatic clipped planchet specimen, preserved in MS65 with razor-sharp edges, fetched $1,100 in a 2021 regional sale. These headline-grabbing results underscore a key lesson. While many error coins exist, only those in exceptional condition achieve truly eye-popping prices. For collectors seeking to hunt these treasures, strategy matters. Searching through circulation can yield lower-grade doubled dies. Odds hover around 1 in 12,000 for the clear doubled die obverse. For off-center or clipped planchet types, the chances improve if you target unsearched, uncirculated sets or dealer rolls. Attending local coin shows or online error-focused auctions can unearth high-grade specimens. Most importantly, always verify authenticity. The doubling must match official die varieties documented in trusted references, and off-centers should show consistent metal curvature. If you already own a 66 quarter, it's worth examining under strong light with a 10x loupe. Check for overlapping letters, irregular rim continuity, or unusual planchet edges. Even if an error looks minor, it could bump your coin well above face value. For serious collectors planning to buy or sell, professional grading is almost essential, especially for coins moving into 3- or 4-figure territory. A certified slab not only ensures authenticity, but also preserves condition and facilitates confident transactions. At the end of the day, the 1966 quarter stands as a testament to an era of change, both in minting technology and collector appetite. From the transition away from silver to the subtle or spectacular minting mistakes, these coins offer a rich tapestry of intrigue. Whether you're building a specialized error collection or simply curious about a quarter you've held for decades, Understanding the nuances of doubling, off-center strikes, and clipped planchets opens a window onto the human side of coin production. Up next, we'll explore another intriguing piece from 1970, where yet more surprises await. Now let's turn our attention to the 1970 quarter, a coin that on the surface might seem ordinary, yet holds mysteries that have fascinated collectors for years. This isn't just about a date stamped in metal. It's about an era marked by experimentation at the U.S. Mint, subtle production anomalies, and a handful of truly rare varieties that have commanded jaw-dropping prices when they've surfaced. For anyone who's held on to a 1970 Washington quarter without a second thought, it's worth taking a closer look. In some cases, these coins aren't just spare change, they're hidden treasures. The historical backdrop of the 1970 quarter is tied closely to the Mint's ongoing adjustments after moving away from silver just a few years prior. By 1970, the transition to copper-nickel clad was well established, but the Mint was still refining processes to improve strike quality and die longevity. That period of fine-tuning, paired with the sheer volume of coins needed for circulation, led to occasional lapses in quality control. And that's where the most intriguing 1970 errors emerged. Philadelphia struck the bulk of 1970 quarters, with no mint mark, while Denver's carry the familiar D beneath the wreath. But an even rarer group was struck at San Francisco, the 1970 S-proof quarters. It's the 1970 S-proof quarter that has captivated collectors the most, particularly a fascinating error known as the 1970 S-proof quarter struck on a 1941 Canadian quarter. Yes, you read that right. Somehow, during production, a leftover silver Canadian quarter from 1941 found its way into the presses at the San Francisco Mint, and over it was struck the 1970 Washington quarter design. The result? A coin with visible remnants of the original Canadian imagery beneath the U.S. design. A double national identity pressed into one piece of metal. Only a few are known to exist, making them extraordinary rarities. Identifying one of these legendary error coins is tricky but possible. Under magnification, you can spot faint traces of King George VI's profile, as well as partial inscriptions like Georgiev's, or parts of the Canadian date, 1941, peeking through the U.S. design, especially around the reverse wreath or Washington's bust. Even a subtle glimpse of the original reeded edge or underlying denticles, those tiny tooth-like rim marks, can indicate a genuine specimen. For collectors who stumble across such a coin, it's nothing short of a numismatic miracle. The value of a 1970 S-proof quarter struck on a 1941 Canadian quarter is staggering. In 2016, one sold at auction for over $35,000, and that's not a fluke. These coins routinely command prices in the tens of thousands when they surface, especially when certified by a leading grading company. Even outside this headline-making error, other 1,970 quarters carry premiums. Proof 1970s quarters with deep cameo contrast DCM can fetch between $10 and $50 in PR67 condition, climbing to $150 or more in PR69. Circulated 1970D or 1970 Philadelphia. Quarters are typically worth face value unless they exhibit errors like doubling, broad strikes, or off-center strikes. Let's talk more about these more attainable errors. A 1970 quarter with a broad strike error, where the collar failed, allowing the metal to spread wider than usual, can command $50 to $150 depending on the degree of expansion and overall condition. Off-center strikes, if modest around 5% off, start around $75 in AU or MS grades, but when the misalignment reaches 10% or more, prices can jump into the $200 to $400 range, particularly for mint state examples with clear date and design visibility. A standout off-center strike of 20% graded MS64 recently fetched $850 at auction, proving how dramatic visuals can boost desirability. Interestingly, doubled die varieties for the 1970 quarter aren't as widely documented as those for earlier years like 1972, but some subtle doubling has been reported, especially around Liberty and quarter dollar. These minor doubled dies, while not commanding the same premiums as their more famous counterparts, still attract collectors willing to pay $20 to $50 for a crisp AU or MS example showing clear doubling under magnification. Condition, as always, is king. A circulated 1970 quarter with an off-center strike or broad strike might sell for $20 to $40 if graded fine, F12, or very fine, VF20. Step up to extremely fine, EF40, and you're in the $50 to $100 range for notable errors. Once you reach mint state, MS60 and above, the price curve steepens considerably. MS63 off-center strikes start around $200, and MS65 or higher can easily double that, especially if eye appeal is strong and the date remains fully visible. Proof errors, such as a 1970s proof struck on an underweight planchet or with a mirror brockage, carry unpredictable premiums that hinge heavily on uniqueness and visual punch. Fascinating stories swirl around the 1970 quarter's unusual errors. According to longtime numismatic circles, the infamous Canadian quarter planchet mix-up was initially spotted by a coin dealer flipping through proof sets in the early 2000s. Imagine the surprise of finding a foreign silhouette ghosting beneath Washington's image. It's speculated that leftover blank planchets from foreign contract minting, Canada among them, accidentally slipped into U.S. proof operations. While the mint never officially confirmed the mix-up, the existence of certified examples lends credibility to the tale, adding a dash of mystery that still sparks debate at coin shows. As we close this exploration of the 1970 quarter, one thing stands clear. What might look like a simple, everyday coin can hold remarkable stories, quirks, and values beneath its familiar surface. Whether you're an experienced collector chasing elusive errors, or someone discovering an unusual quarter in a family collection, knowing what to look for can turn a casual find into a cherished highlight. Together with the 1972 and 1966 quarters we've covered, these pieces remind us that even the smallest change can carry big histories and bigger possibilities.